seems to have slowed down a little bit. So if we want to get started, I'm more than happy to do so. I
Let's
do
do it.
believe, just to clarify, you can see my screen, correct?
I can indeed.
I have VSA pulled up.
Okay, let's get started. So first off, hello and welcome to the Getting Started with VSA webinar presented by ProVault Technologies. Huge thank you to everyone who has attended. I know it takes a lot to take some time out of your day, but we really appreciate it. So this is actually our first official webinar on the Kaseya side of things, so I'm super excited to get started. My name is Greg White, and with me today we have Tobin Carpenter, the master of all things Kaseya VSA, our resident Kaseya VSA consultant. And Tobin, if you don't mind, do you want to kick us off with just some brief introductions and then tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Absolutely. So good afternoon to everyone that's taking the time to stop by today. My name is Tobin Carpenter. I've been with ProVault for almost a year and a half, KCA certified. I have 20 years of experience in the IT industry, and I've been in the MSP field for 13 of those. And my role here at ProVault is assisting our partners in optimizing their VSA and helping them come up with new ideas to automate their business.
Awesome. Again, I'm really excited to hear what you got for us today, Tobin. But before we get into the nitty gritty, I just wanted to give the viewers who may not have heard of ProVault Tech just some brief background knowledge on who we are and then really why they should even listen. So we've been in business now for 15 years. We actually just celebrated our 15-year anniversary. So I'd like to think that we've got this down to a science and that we know our stuff. So we predominantly do this through three main service lines. We optimize and manage backend tools for MSPs, and this will be through the backup admin program, our 24/7 critical alert monitoring service, and then really our bread and butter, which is the RMM administration program, where we work very closely with Kaseya VSA, which Tobin will go into today, as well as ConnectWise Automate. So really with introductions out of the way, I'll throw it back to you, Tobin. If you don't mind, can you give us a broad overview of what you'll be talking about today and who should be listening?
Absolutely. So today we're going to discuss where to start when you're setting up your VSA. Say it's a brand new VSA, as well as walking you through creating a monitor for a QuickBooks server. As for those who should be listening, honestly, anyone who uses the VSA, but primarily for those that are brand new or don't feel like their VSA is doing as much as it could. So with Kaseya VSA, as most things in our industry, you're presented with a blank slate to configure as you see fit. There's a lot of modules and a lot of functions within VSA, so it can be very difficult to know where to start. But I hope by the end of today's webinar, you have a better idea on how to configure it. There are many paths you can take, but I do call this the ProVault path.
So the ProVault path it is then. And I know VSA is a beast. We hear it all the time on the sales side. So where should we get started?
All right, so what I'm sharing with you today is a brand new VSA environment. It contains no monitors, no views, no agents, no organizations, and no users at all. So let's go, of course, obviously the initial user. So let's go ahead and start by creating a user.
And Tobin, while you're doing that, everyone in the audience, please feel free to throw questions in the chat at any point. I think there's a Q&A section as well as just the normal chat. We'll look at both, but please throw them in and we'll address those at the end of the webinar.
All right, so to create a user, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to navigate to System, and then we're going to head over to the User Security section. And we're going to focus on three primary functions in here: users, user roles, and scopes. So roles control what modules and functions your users have access to, basically their permissions. And then scope controls what organizations, machine groups, and machines that they have access to. So when you're setting this up, you want to make sure that you're always using the principle of least privilege.
So it's funny that you say that. I hear that term, again, all the time on the sales side, which ultimately limits the user's permissions really to do their job, which leads to service delivery inconsistency or delays. Why do this?
So while it may cause delays in service, I would definitely rather have a delay in service than having the user have access to a feature that could cause some serious consequences and may not be easily undone. Not all users need to have a master role. I think we can all agree that the easy path is rarely the best path. So when you're creating your permission, when you're creating your roles, one thing to keep in mind is a permission called approve procedures. And this is going to be under the agent procedure section. So procedures cannot be run until they're approved. So limiting this permission allows for a select group of users to have access to create new content, which allows for cleaner, more organized content. And when reviewing and approving, that's a really great time to do your documentation. Get that out of the way so folks know about what's there. It's really important to remember when creating a role that when you're providing, when you're adding new permissions, make sure that, sorry, not adding new permissions. When you're adding permissions, make sure that you're adding the ones that you think they'll need, but be very conservative with that because you can always add permissions later as needed. And if you're adding permissions to a role that you think might be needed, make sure that you're not adding them for a single user. If not all users in that role need that extra permission, then make sure you're creating another role entirely for that user. So let's just go through a live example real quick. Let's do, we're gonna first create a user role. So to do that, we'll select user roles. We'll select new. Let's make a role for a technician. So we're gonna call it VSA Tech. For role type, we're gonna select Kaseya Advanced, which is going to give us actual Kaseya permissions. Let's select save. Once that's created, go ahead and select your new role that you just created. Head over to the tab called Access Rights and select Set Your Role Access Rights. This does take a moment to load, as some of you may know. Once it does, select Expand All. And from here, you're going to be able to see all the different permissions that you can set in here. There's a lot of them, a lot of them. I'm not going to get into what all of these do today, but do know that there are a ton in here that you can set up. So we're going to do OK. And then we're going to create a scope. So go over to scopes, select new. Let's do VSA Tech. Save. Again, select it. And then let's go over to the organizations tab. And we're going to select assign. And what this is going to do is this is going to set this scope. Whoever has this scope will be able to access these organizations. So we've got only a couple in here right now. I'm going to go ahead and do a check mark for all of them and select save. And remember, when adding organizations, you do need to go into your scopes and add those new organizations that have been created. All right, so next thing we need to do is we're going to create a user. So let's go ahead over to user. And let's select new. From here, we'll have to give some needed information here. So we'll put this information in. For the initial role, I'm going to select the role that I just created, VSA Tech. And then for your initial scope, I'm going to select VSA Tech as well. Give them a first and last name. The related org staff section, you do not need to worry about that right now. It is useful later, but for the purposes of what we're doing, we will not go into that one today. All right, so let's go ahead and give them a username as well. And a password. And then, of course, make sure that you select the require password change at next login. Select save. All right, and now we have a user created. So now that we have that user, we need to create an organization to put computers into. So to do that, under system, the system module, let's go scroll down to the orgs, groups, departments, staff, and manage function. So select manage. And here we go. So when you are, the purpose of orgs and machine groups is going to be so that you can structure your clients. I want you to keep in mind that you do want to take advantage of the machine groups and the subgroups to make sure that your clients' machines are organized for easier access for your technicians. For example, you can have machine groups and subgroups named after locations, such as office branches, you could do machine types, such as workstation and server. You could have groups for spares or unmanaged, which basically means that they're, they don't have any management. They're just maybe break fix computers. Things that you don't want to have policies applied to.
Well, that's an interesting point, Tobin. We were just talking to someone who was only using one group per org, really wasn't taking advantage of these machine groups and sub-machine groups. Do you see this kind of thing often?
I do. It's understandable because when you're going to see it when you're creating these organizations. You're not prompted to add a machine group or a sub-machine group. They are in a completely different tab, so you have to go to a different spot to add those. So, sorry, yes. So I do see it.
Gotcha. So I don't know, is there a downfall to this single folder type structure?
Growth. Keep in mind growth. So if you're using a single folder, it would be acceptable for a small organization, but think about when that company, goes from 15 computers to 3,000 computers, you're going to need a more effective way to organize and store those machines. For example, if an HR department kept all their employee files under a folder just called employees, it'd be kind of difficult to find the exact employee they're looking for. So machine groups and subgroups will greatly reduce the time that it takes your technicians to locate, remote, and remediate an issue. Another downfall of using a single org structure or a single group structure is it reduces the amount of automation and policy options that you're going to have later on.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, and definitely a good thing to know up front.
All right, so what we're going to do here, we're going to go through creating an organization, then we're going to create a machine group, and then we're going to create a subgroup. So to create your organization, let's go ahead and start by clicking New. New organization is correct for this when you're creating a new. So the ID is basically the short name of the company. So I'm going to name that PVC and the org name of ProVal. There's other options in here that you can fill out, but you don't necessarily need to. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to leave those other ones blank, and we're going to select Save. So now you can see we have our ProVal organization that we've created, and now we want to add machine groups. So let's add a machine group for our Orlando office. You can see here, here's your root. This is what's created when you create the organization, you have a root folder. So we're going to select New, and we're going to type in a group name. We'll call it Orlando. We're going to select Save. So now you can see that we have our pvc.orlando. So let's make another group for workstations that are located at the Orlando office. So let's select New. Let's type workstations. And then for parent group, what you're going to do here to create a subgroup, we're going to hit the drop down and select the parent group of PVC Orlando. Select Save. And now you can see we have a little bit of a different structure here. We now have PVC Orlando workstation, and its parent machine group is PVC Orlando. All right, so now that you have an organization created, we need to create a deployment package so that we can install a computer. So we're going to do that by going to the agent module, and we're going to go to manage packages. So before I create it, I want to mention that you can create a single deployment package for an entire organization, or you can create packages for each machine group, such as Orlando or Orlando workstations. So for here, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, so does ProVal have a recommendation on that, one way or the other?
We do. Our recommendation on this is to have a deployment package for each machine group. This is going to make sure and encourage your technicians to install computers into their correct locations and will assist with organization. In my mind, it takes longer to figure out what group a machine should be in than it does just to use the correct deployment package during the initial installation.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, so let's go ahead and create a package. To do that, we're going to select Create at the top. And the first option you have is what kind of agent is it? Windows, Mac, or Linux? For this purpose, we're going to do Windows. And for our name, I'm going to name it ProVal Orlando Workstations. So you can absolutely put a description in here if you want to, but I like to name the package itself based on the group that it's going to be installing to. That way, when you're first looking at it, the first thing you see is ProVal Orlando Workstations. It just makes sense that that's where it's going to go. So there are a couple other options here, but we're not going to discuss those today. So let's go ahead and select Next. And now you are presented with several switches that you can use. Whenever you're creating a package, this page will always show up as the second thing that you do after actually naming the package. So you don't have to worry about memorizing these by heart. They're always going to be here for you. A couple switches that I want to talk about. The first one I want to mention that I always use is silent, so /S. So this is going to allow the installer to run without presenting any prompts on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one. E is going to exit the installer if it detects that another agent is already installed. can be useful if you want to make sure that you're only putting single agents on machines. That way, for example, if somebody installs an agent to a computer and then they install another agent for another organization, that installation will exit because it sees that there's an agent already installed. I am going to uncheck that one for now. So the next one is going to be the /w. So /w is going to overwrite the configuration file. It is situational, but it can help to troubleshoot failed agents or issues with agent installations. The last one is going to be /r, which is going to reinstall the agent even if it's already on the machine. Again, situational, but it can help to troubleshoot a failed agent. So what we're going to do here is we're going to select S for silent. We're also going to select the group. So over here for group ID, we're going to do existing group. And when you click the drop down, you're going to get a couple options here. So we want this package to install computers into the PVC Orlando workstation group. So that's what we're going to select. So let's select finish. And you can see your package here. And now we have a package that we can download and install a machine.
It's great. So we have an organization, we have a package and an agent installed. What's next?
So the next thing I want to talk about is going to be views. So views are going to allow you to bundle machines based on certain criteria. That way you can easily filter only those machines. They're also going to be the cornerstone of policies within your VSA by dictating which policies are applied to each machine based on whether or not that machine falls into the associated view. So with views, you can filter on some standard items such as OS type, installed applications, roles such as IIS, DNS, DHCP, etc., agent status, and then others. You can also filter on advanced filters such as org or machine ID, OS version, gateway, chassis type, and several other options.
Gotcha. So these are kind of like the stock, I guess, options that Kaseya provides within views. Can these be customized in any way, or you kind of stuck with these like core?
Yes. Views can absolutely be customized using the advanced filters and by using custom fields, which I'm actually gonna walk through today in our view creation. So let's go ahead and let's create a view that's going to show machines with QuickBooks Database Manager installed. We're going to do one with a standard filter looking for the application itself. And then we're going to do another with an advanced filter. But let's first go ahead and create that custom field. So in order to create a custom field, we're going to go down to Audit, and we're going to go to Machine Summary. So I currently only have one agent installed in this VSA. So that's the agent we're going to use. So right here, you've got an option that says New Custom Field. So let's select that. And let's give our custom field a name. We're going to call it QB Server. And for the custom field type, for this one, we're going to select string. So string is going to let you put any combination of characters in that field. Number, date, time, obviously is looking for very specific items in the string or in the syntax. So we're going to use string. We're going to select save. And once the page refreshes, down at the bottom here, you're going to see our new custom field that we just made called QB Server. So to add data to that field, you're going to select the machine. Oh, you know what? Let me tell you this first, actually. Whenever you create a custom field, you create it one time, and then it shows up on every computer. So you don't have to go computer to computer creating these. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some data into that field. So select the machine that you want to modify the custom field for. Select Edit Machine Data. And then when you scroll down, you're going to see the new custom field that we made. So for this, I'm going to put a 1 into here. But don't be concerned about that 1. When I go and create my view in just a little bit, you're going to see how that correlates. You can use any syntax in here that you want, so long as that view is looking for the same syntax in that custom field. So now that I've got a 1 here, make sure you always click save. And now you can see the 1 shows up in the field. So let's go ahead and create a view. So to create a view, we're going to select the new button. And the first thing that you want to do is save as. Before you can do anything, you have to save the view. So we're going to call this QB servers, and we're going to select OK. All right, so once that saves, just waiting for it to load.
And then Tobin, we had a question in the chat that just said, can you zoom in when you're doing these examples? Like, I guess it's coming through a little bit smaller on people's screens here. Sorry about that.
Let's see. Don't know if that's going to affect this window. Is that a little better?
Yeah, that works.
Perfect. Sorry about that, y'all.
No, you're okay.
All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to use the application filter. And what we're doing here is we're doing contains QB Server Utility Manager. So that means that any computer in the VSA that's run an audit and has this process, this exe installed, will show up under this view. One thing to keep in mind when adding views, you want to make sure that you click this check mark. If you don't select that check mark, then it will not save and it will not filter on that that option. So let's go ahead and select save. And this is using a standard filter. So the next thing I want to do, once it's done loading, is we're going to make sure that view is on. My machine does have QuickBooks installed, as well as the database manager. So you're going to see that my machine falls into this view. So let's do this a little bit differently. Let's do an advanced filter, and let's use that custom field that we created. So I'm going to uncheck this, and I'm going to check the advanced agent data filter. Then I'm going to press define filter. So what this is going to do is this is going to load all of the built-in and custom fields that are present in your VSA. So your custom fields that you create are always going to be at the bottom. So we're going to scroll down here, and you can see that we have that custom field that we created. So what I'm going to do here, just to show you kind of how this works, I'm going to use the syntax of to. Then I'm going to scroll back up to the top. I'm going to select apply, and then I'm going to select save. And you're going to notice once this finishes loading, my computer is no longer going to be in this view. All right, you can see that it is completely missing from this view now. So let's go ahead and do define filter again. Scroll down here, and we're going to throw in the one that my computer does have that custom field set as. Click apply. Select save. Give it a moment to load. And there's my computer. All right, so that is a basic setup of a view. So now we have a view that works. Go ahead and close that view. So now that we have the view that shows computers that are considered QuickBooks servers, let's go ahead and discuss monitors, and let's create a monitor set to monitor the database service and the process. So to do that, we're going to navigate over here to the monitor module and the monitor sets function. So if you aren't aware of what monitors do literally just that. They monitor for specific items, and they should absolutely be used so that you know of issues before your clients do. There are 3 different types of monitors within the VSA: counter, service, and process. Counter monitors are used for threshold alerts such as drive space, CPU, memory performance, and quite a lot more. Service monitors watch for services that are not running, and they attempt to restart that service. These are useful to monitor core services that need to be running for your clients to operate for their day-to-day, such as Exchange, DNS, DHCP, line of business applications, etc. And then process monitors, which look for a process to meet a particular condition, whether that be up or down. And again, very useful for line of business applications, antivirus, backup, etc.
Interesting. So you can link monitors to execute scripts, create alerts.
Not with monitors by themselves. but you can combine them with policies to execute a script, send an email, create a ticket, etc. Let's go ahead and create a monitor set, and then let's set up a policy so you can see those options. So we're here in the monitor module at the monitor sets function. And I want to mention this, I've said it already once in here, but organization is very, very key. So make sure when you're creating monitors, creating procedures, anything that you might be creating, make sure that you're using some type of folder structure so that you don't have one folder with a bajillion things in it and it gets very, very cluttered. So what we're going to do is I've created a folder here under shared for line of business monitors. And I'm going to create a new folder called QB monitor. I'm going to select OK. Now we have our folder. I'm going to select new monitor set. So the first thing you want to do is give the monitor set a name. Again, I'm going to name it QB monitor. And the description, just like agent packages, it's completely optional. If you want to add more description to what this monitor does, you absolutely can. And the same thing with the group alarm column. Again, optional. It's really only it really only matters if you're using the built-in console to look at alerts that are actively happening within your VSA. So we're going to go ahead and select save. And then you're presented with the options for the monitor. So I'm going to select services, check, and I'm going to select add. So we have a drop down for services. And if you don't see your service listed in here, you can add the service manually. So let's go ahead and find our service. There we go, QuickBooks DB 32. And then we have a couple other options here. Restart attempts. It defaults to 3. That's what I like to leave it on. That means Kaseya attempts 3 times to restart that service. And when you connect it with a policy, if after 3 times it is still in a failed state, it will then activate your policy options, which we will talk about just shortly. Restart interval defaults to 1 minute, but of course you can change that to whatever you'd like. And then your ignore additional alarms, 1 hour is the default, but you can also change that to whatever you'd like. So let's go ahead and select save for our service. Then we're going to check our process status. We're going to select add. And then we're going to grab the QB server utility manager.exe. Again, if you do not see your process in this list, go ahead and select add process and add it manually. And then it will look for that process. These fields, these dropdowns will fill the more computers you have and the more audits that are done within your environment. All right, so alarm on transition, your 2 options are up or down. For the purpose of this, I want to be alerted if it goes down. Ignore additional alarms. Again, it defaults to 1 hour, but you can change that to whatever you would like. So let's select save. All right, now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and close our monitor set window. And then what I find is that you do have to refresh after creating a monitor. So let's go ahead and refresh. And let's make sure that our monitor shows up in that folder. And there it is. And here you can see there is no counter. There is a service check. And there is a process check. All right, so what we've done so far is we've created a custom field, a view, and a monitor. So what we want to do now is we want to combine all of those within a policy so that we can be alerted of issues. Applying by policy automates the application of the monitor for future machines that may meet the criteria of that view. This is going to help reduce human error, and it's also going to help reduce onboarding time. So let's go ahead and we're going to navigate to policy management and policies. And again, just like with everything else that I've mentioned, make sure you're using folders. So I've got my folder here. I'm going to select add folder. And we're going to do QB monitor, if I could type, monitor policy. Let's do OK. All right. Going to select that folder that we want to create the policy in. And we're going to select Add Policy. We're going to give the policy a name. We're going to select OK. Select the policy after it's created, and then we're presented with some options. The first thing that I like to do is I like to go ahead and select my view. You're always going to want a view in these policies. So we're going to go ahead and select QB servers, which is going to apply this policy to any machine that matches and that falls within that QB server's view. And then we're going to select the policy object called monitor sets. Scroll down a little bit so we can all see. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to select Add Monitor Set. We're going to talk about these options here. So create alarm. What this does is under Monitor Alarm Summary, there is essentially a log that shows you all the alarms that have happened. I like to have create alarm set up just so you can make sure if you need to look back, later and say, well, why didn't that create a ticket? Oh, well, I can see that there absolutely was an alarm generated. Let's take a look at our policy because something didn't happen properly. Or the other way, well, I don't see any alarm, so it looks like this didn't actually happen or didn't register to our system. So I'm going to select the create alarm. Create ticket will generate a ticket into an integrated PSA, such as BMS. If you are using, or if you're using something like MSP Assist, it'll also generate tickets into Autotask and Manage. For the purposes of this, I'm going to uncheck. Run script will allow you to fire off a script on the machine in question or any other machine within the VSA. For example, a script that starts a service or a process. And then email recipient, you're going to use this to send a notification, say to a PSA email connector, distribution list, Teams, Slack, or any other system that can receive email. So let's put in an email. And what you want to do next is you want to make sure that you're selecting the monitor set that you're looking for. Sometimes you may see a lot of monitors in here. If you haven't created many, you'll only have a few. So we're going to do QB monitor. We're going to select add. All right, and now that you've added it, you can see the monitor set name. If there's a description, you'll see that here. If there's a ticket, it'll have a green check mark. If it's to create an alarm, green check mark again, send email. This will also allow you to verify the email address, the script that you've chosen, and the machine that you've chosen to fire that script on. So now that we've got that created, we're ready to save and apply. So let's go ahead and do save and apply at the top. Give it a moment. Select apply now. Select OK. One thing to watch for, when you save a policy, make sure that the scroll, this little icon right here I call a scroll, make sure that the scroll is white and black and not yellow, white and yellow. White and yellow means that it has not saved properly. And to resolve that, just select it and then select apply policy. Then you'll go through the apply now again. Okay, there you go. All right, so now we've got a policy created. And while we did press the apply button, we actually haven't applied it to anything because it's not within our assignment. So to assign these policies, under policy management, assignment, organization, and machine groups, we're gonna select this. And then on the right side, under policies window, you're going to expand that folder where you created that policy. So you can see that policy now. And I want to put this in the global org. The reason being is because I have a view that's very specific. So it's only going to take effect on the machines that fall into that view. So we don't have any concern about this applying to everything because it's only going to apply to that view. And that way, in the future, when you add other computers to other organizations, you could quickly go back to that custom field. You could put a 1 in, and then it falls into that view without you having to do anything else. So let's go ahead and drag this to global org. Select continue. Now it's there. So the last thing I'm going to do, the last thing I like to do You don't have to. This is an extra step where I just want to make sure that things have been done. We're going to go over here to machines. And I'm going to select the computer. And then I'm going to reprocess the policies. That way, if there's any policies that have not applied, they will get applied or they will be queued to be applied. All right, so now your policy is actually active. And that's that. That's the whole webinar. I thank you guys for being here. I do want to let you know we plan to do more webinars. One's going to be on patching, one's going to be on reporting. If there's something specific that you would like to see covered in a webinar, please share those with us and let us see if we can get those on our calendars.
Absolutely. And Tobin, let me be the first to say this has been great. I definitely learned a lot and appreciate the insights. So with that being said, let's turn to the audience. We got one question already. It says, Toby is the dude. He is the dude. I'm not going to lie. Toby is the man. But if you have any questions from anything that was mentioned, please throw it in. I think we have another question here. Let's see, from Jim. On that last section, once the policy is applied, how can you verify if it has been applied?
Okay, so easiest way to do that is actually the window that I'm actually on right now. You can use this window here. Let me actually expand this so you can see. So under policy management and machines, again, there would normally be more computers in here, but what you can do is you can actually select the computer in question that you're looking for. And on the right side here, there's a little section that says policies assigned to this machine by association with organization and machine groups. There's also one that says policies assigned to this machine. Policies assigned to this machine are going to be policies that are manually applied to that computer, just that computer. And policies assigned to this machine by association with organization or machine groups are going to be what happens over here in the organization and machine group, where we dragged that policy into the folder. So if you look right here, you can see the policy, QB monitor policy, and view QB servers. So this page is the one that you'll check to know if a policy has been applied.
Gotcha. And then, sorry, I missed this one. In the view section, for the views you created, it says, what is the difference between using the application filter and then the custom field that you created?
So with the custom field, actually, let me start with the application. So if I had this filter turned on and it was looking for computers that had the QB server utility manager.exe, it's going to find all of them and apply this policy to that machine. So what you have to be concerned about is that in some instances, it could be true that the application is installed, but that machine may not actually be being used as a QuickBooks server. So to kind of get around that, what we can do is we take that custom field and we can manually put that one in, so that that's the only thing we have to do to make that machine fall into this view. So by doing the custom field, we're essentially making sure that any alerts that we're getting for this monitor are actionable. I don't necessarily need to know that QuickBooks Server Utility Manager is not running on a machine that's not actually hosting a QuickBooks file. Somebody said, can you speak about Kaseya for another 30 minutes? I could. I don't want to, but I could. And hello, Mr. Brum, how are you doing? Is there going to be a replay under our login?
So we will publish this video to our YouTube as well as our social media channels for everyone who wants to rewatch it or just take notes. And then, so please be on the lookout for that. Yes, absolutely.
And I don't see a whole lot of questions coming in. I'd love to answer more for you guys.
Yeah, throw them in there.
I hope that you guys got something from this. And again, if you have other topics that you'd like to see us dive into a little more, we'd love to get those from you and make sure that we get those on our calendar.
Absolutely. And then for everyone else who joined us today, I will send out my email right after this call, so you can please feel free to shoot any questions that may pop up in the meantime to my email. And then if you'd like to schedule something with Tobin, he loves to talk to everyone. Tobin is great. So thanks again for joining us today. If we don't have any more questions, I think we'll cut it off right here. But thank you guys so much.
Some time back.
Great week. Stay safe. Stay classy. And we'll
Stay
see you next time.
classy. All right. I'm going to hang out for a few more minutes. That way, if any of you guys have any questions, put them in there and I'll answer them. But other than that, thank you guys so much for attending today. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, so the next webinar, Tobin, if I'm not mistaken, we might get into the patch manager side of Kaseya. I know it's huge on our calls. But yeah, I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot in that one.
That should be good. That should be good.
Very useful as well.
All right, Tobin, I think that about ends it. I'm gonna take off here, guys. Thank you so much, Tobin. Again, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day and a great holiday if you get the holiday.
Sure. Thanks, Devin.